Before we get any further, I'm not going to go over how to set up Toolscreen or Ninjabrain in this guide, but if you do need help setting it up with all the best settings, please feel free to check out the video that I link in the description where I do a whole MCSR ranked best settings and setup video. One key thing that I will point out is that this uses the God sense in your Ninjabrain settings. That's this sensitivity here, and you have to change it in your options.txt file or your standard settings file in your Prism instance. Once again, I go over the setup in the video. It's a boat on top of your Nether portal as long as it isn't obstructed in any direction. You get in the boat and then you get out of it. You throw an eye at your feet, and then you can press escape and turn your FOV down to 30 while you're tracking your eye into the sky. At any point you can pause, or you can hold F3 and press pause to get this game paused and try to read this. Now you're going to go into your eye zoom, which once again we bind that in tool screen, and it changes our resolution to help with measuring the eye. What you're aiming for with boat eye is this section right here on the left side of the pupil. A lot of people will aim right here where I'm circling to try to get as accurate of a measurement as possible, right where the pupil intersects with these other boxes. If I press escape again and unpause, I can try to line it up with that section. If I've missed it, I just simply throw another eye and try to line it up as close as I can. Right here, you can see the eye is raised up quite a bit, but it used to be in the correct spot. And in our measurement on the left side here, it's still in line. So this is where we press F3 and C, and it'll give us our measurement for where the stronghold is as long as it's in that perfect line. Now, you won't always get a perfect measurement. In the case that you don't get a perfect measurement and it's slightly off like this, you can press F3 and C and then use the buttons that we bind in Ninjabrain as those adjustment buttons. Just so you can have a look, these are the hotkeys I'm talking about in Ninjabrain. I've set my plus 001 to my plus button, or my equals if you're not holding shift. And then I've set my negative 0.01 to the subtract or the minus button. If we go back into the game, what that means is that if I am trying to measure here, but my crosshair is off, you can see just how many pixels or subpixels it is off by right here. In this example, I'll be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the negative because we want it to line up with this iris. So we're going to press F3 and C, and then we're going to press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that gives us a 99% certainty right here. What this means is in the overworld location, the stronghold should be at negative 1132, negative 1436. In the Nether, it's negative 142, negative 180, which we'll talk about in a second. In order to check this, we leave our eye zoom, turn our FOV back up, and we can do /locate stronghold, which will give us a measurement of negative 1128 and negative 1432. You'll notice here it's off by 4, and that's because we're measuring to 4,4 with Ninjabrain but the game measures to 8,8. This can sometimes grief you if you're going to check it, because if we click this, teleport, and dig down, sometimes we don't hit the stronghold. We got lucky this time, but essentially, if we go here into the very center of the starting room or the starting staircase, this coordinate, when you look at block, should be 1132, 1436. Well, negatives, but you get my point. It should be this exact coordinate, which is where Ninbot measures to. Something to look out for when you're measuring is something called eye wiggle. If I get in the boat and get out, as I follow this up, sometimes the eye will shift between 2 points and make it harder to measure. I'll try to line it up here, and you would have noticed it right there at the very end. I'll do a replay in slow motion, but it wiggles between the 1 and 2 slot. What you do to counteract this is you press F3C, and then to adjust the angle, we go up by 1 or 2. You can see here, while I'm going up by 1 or 2, the location of the stronghold actually doesn't matter. So we're going to send it to this location anyways, and we're still going to end up in the stronghold. We can check that by doing /locate stronghold, and 1320, which is 4 off, 600, which is 4 off. So we've still got a good measurement, even though we adjusted the angle by 2 here, or at 1, it's still the same measurement. Now, when this does become a problem is when you go to measure and it wiggles between a different number. For example, if it's wiggling between, let's say 3 and 4 here, and it gives us a different number. So we'll do -3, -4. Okay, we'll use different numbers just to be safe here. So -5 and -6, as you can see here, if I were to do these, you can see the location dramatically changes. This is when eye wiggle can become a problem. And if this happens to you, simply get out of it, walk 1 or 2 blocks to the right or left, jump to get rid of any desync you might have, and then throw another eye and remeasure it. This is how you can be absolutely certain that you're going to the right location with a second measurement. As you get more advanced, you can actually start doing a tactic where you do the boat in the Nether. You don't have to wait to get into the overworld to do it. What the boat does is it sets your vision to a specific angle, which allows Ninbot to make it a bit easier to measure. At least that's my understanding of it. I believe it also helps with desync, but that's not the main purpose of it. What this means is that when you're in the Nether and you light the portal, you can overlap getting in the boat by putting the boat on the side of the portal, getting in and getting out, which overlaps with this long animation of waiting for the portal. Now, this won't work if the chunk that you're about to teleport to has already been loaded in. So what we do is we light the portal, place the boat, get in, get out, break the boat, and we should be teleported now. From here, we can just pillar up, get a little corner here, and as you can see, unfortunately, we're under a cave, but I hope the eye goes the other way, and of course it doesn't. I'll show you the whole process of how you would measure the eye here. We light the portal, place our boat, get in and out, and break it to make sure we get our boat back. We can start pillaring up the second we leave the Nether portal. Get a little corner to tuck into. If you're worried about desync, you can jump once just to get rid of any of it. Throw the eye, set to 30 FOV, go into our eye zoom while we're paused and try to line it up as close as we can with that line. Here it looks perfect, but we would adjust with the subpixels afterwards if it wasn't perfect. F3 and C to get our measurement. 94%, which is good enough for me. We know we measured well, but sometimes this will be quite low. And this certainty isn't necessarily an example of exactly where it's going to be, the stronghold. If you're confident in your measurement, you can still send it even with a bad certainty. We pick our eye up here in case this was one with only 6 rods, and then we enter the Nether again. Now, a trick when you enter the Nether, you can look for this, the -242, -518, and you're only looking at the block section, which is very important. Another trick that you can do to instead of trying to figure out which direction you're looking, you can look at this angle, which is -119.05, which is, it corresponds with this number right here next to your facing towards -Z. This first number is your X angle that you're looking at. So if we spin in a circle, we want to try to get it to -119, which will be that direction. What this means is if we go in that direction, we'll end up at these coordinates in the Nether. At any point, if you happen to run the wrong way, and let's say we ran this way, you can press F3 and C once again to get a new angle, which is -125.20 here. You go to that angle, -125.20. It doesn't have to be exact, but as close as you can get. And then if I go in spectator mode and just fly straight, we will eventually cross that exact block, is what that means if we travel at that angle. So if we keep going forwards, somewhere around here, -242 and 518. You can see on the block, don't look at XYZ, on the block, we reach the exact one. Now, in order to blind into the stronghold, we're going to want to get down somewhere between Y35 and 45, a lot of people say. I tend to just go right under 40. So anywhere like 30 to 40-ish is what I kind of go for. But yeah, just right below 40, a lot of the time you're digging down to it. Forgive my slow portal here, but just to show you, we enter and we've blinded right into the stronghold. And that's how you do it. That's how you would do it in a real run. To practice, make fresh creative worlds and you can save a hotbar in creative mode to help gather these quickly. If you go into your standard settings and search for hotbar activators, down here, you can set these buttons, which allows you to make a custom hotbar. So if I grab these things here, and then I press F7 and 4, for example, you can see here it saved it to the 4th slot down here with saved hotbars. In order to load one, I press F6 and 1 because those are the buttons I set, and that'll give me my boat eye measuring hotbar, as you can see here. So just make a nice hotbar for yourself, save it, and then reload it every time you enter a new world. From here, you just place the boat down, throw an eye, do a measurement of the eye, I'm not going to do the actual measurement, but F3C, you get the point. And then when you have your location up here, you do /locate stronghold, and it should give you a coordinate.